wire harness builder, if they're building a harness for you, make sure you get your pinout chart. You need to know your inputs and outputs in order to configure this correctly. So that's definitely something that a lot of people forget to ask for getting a custom harness built. I always build my own engine harnesses, jumper harnesses, so I always note this down in an Excel spreadsheet. Let's take a look at that real quick. So in our Excel spreadsheets here, we can find this is going to call all of the voltage or the analog voltage outputs, the aux outputs, the digital inputs. So we can see here the analog voltage inputs, AV1 through 8. We have our aux outputs 1 through 7, and then digital inputs 1 to 2. So I've essentially called out what the pin is going to be, what the function is going to be, and then also what it's controlling or what it's wired into the input. So for the aux, we can see this is what it's controlling, whether it's a low side or a high side configuration. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. We look at our analog voltage inputs. This is going to be throttle position, map sensor, wideband, fuel pressure, engine temp, inlet air temp, and then we have digital 1 and 2, which is variable cam position and flex fuel. So these are all the inputs and outputs that I've accounted for in my jumper harness and specified right here. So this is what you're going to need in order to account for your wiring for your application, which will definitely be different than mine. Let's look at this real quick. So first thing first, because we're in the input section in our programming for the Emtron, we're going to go into the analog voltage here and start to account for this. So let's jump in here and take a look at how we need to work with this. So first things first, under the engine here, this is going to be the basic engine sensors that we typically always find on every engine. That would be map pressure, throttle position, engine coolant temperature, intake air temperature. Those are the 4 basics that we always have to have. Typically, in addition to this, we have a wideband, could have fuel pressure, could have oil pressure. We find that they're all going to be configured in our window here. So this is everything related to our engine inputs. So here we find our manifold pressure. If we double click on this, this is currently set to an Emtron 4-bar. The input source here is set to analog voltage 1. Now in this case, that's not where my map pressure sensor is wired for my plug and play application. So the first thing I have to do here is go into the input source and change that. If we jump back into the data sheet and we take a look here at our input source, analog voltage 1 is actually set to throttle position. So right off the bat, that's wrong. Analog voltage 2 is what we've assigned to our map pressure, and we can see the map pressure sensor, in this case, is the OEM Honda sensor that's found on a K-series engine. So let's go and account for this. So analog voltage 2, and the calibration scale needs to be the OEM Honda map sensor. So if we jump back in here, we're going to change our input source in our list here to analog voltage 2. So that's pretty straightforward. Now the filter here, this is filtering out the map pressure pulsations that's coming and being read from the map pressure sensor. Depending on where this is located, this could be very noisy and you might have to run a higher filter. Be aware if you run a higher filter, transient calculations that rely on look at the map pressure sensor might be lagging behind a little bit because you're over filtering. I'm going to put my filter here at a value of something like 8. That should be fairly good. The filters can go pretty high, so we can increase that more if we're finding that the map pressure reading is a little bit erratic if we're running the engine. Again, that can affect our fueling because speed density relies on the map pressure sensor, so we need to have it stable but not over filtered. The sensor. Thanks for checking out our teaser clip. If you want to see the rest of this video and more than 500 hours of current EFI training we have to offer, make sure you click right here. If you want to go and check out more teaser clips from this training course, click here, and you don't want to miss any of the videos we're going to be releasing on this channel, so make sure you subscribe and click here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.